August 14th, 2023. This is the S&P 500 E-futures mini on the 2000 tick chart on the NinjaTrader 8 platform. There was no real piece of economic data that came out today that caused the market to really move. It looked like it was kind of in a trading range. It was hugging the top of the trading range, and finally at the last 10 minutes, prices broke out. There's the pre-market highs, the pre-market lows. Looks like there was just one big swing up, came down, never really touched the bottom of the trading range, although there was a consolidation area, and it went up and tested the top of the trading range probably about 3 times, and then finally broke out. I found about 2 trades today, or I took 2 trades today. They were both green, and then the rest of the trades are just setups. Some of them were good, some of them bad. And for one reason or another, I didn't like the trade, so I didn't take it if it was not marked. This is a pre-market. I don't trade the pre-market, but I did see a failed second entry short right here, which is well, it's in the pre-market. It looked like it was one big move down. It's one first entry short, followed by a second entry short, and then it continued moving up. On the open, price is just kind of chopped around in this consolidation area. There are second entries in here, but they're not very high probability. It felt a little bit choppy, a little bit congested, so I didn't even try to attempt to take any trades there. There's a new high here, pulls down, it's a first entry long, the second entry long. Now I thought this was a possible trade because it is the bottom of this potential range and is bouncing off this clear support, which is roughly in this area. The signal bar is good, but I wasn't 100% sure about this trade yet because at one time I thought the trading range was where this blue line was and this bottom part here. So it looked like it could have been a failed breakout. It's just this wasn't a clean enough support, even though it's on a bigger time frame. You can see it's clearly a support. If it was just more uniform touches instead of this break a couple times and then a little bit higher, a little bit lower, it was a little bit unsure. It felt just a little too risky for me, so I skipped it. I was thinking if I could find a higher low, it would have been worthwhile, but as you can see, it pushed all the way back to the top. And at that point, I extended the trading range from this blue line to this top of this blue rectangle, but there was no higher low to take advantage of this trade. Prices came back. I did see a first entry long and then a second entry long. Now, the problem with this setup is even though it's a good signal bar for the second entry long, I can see that this could also just be interpreted as just one leg down. So even though it had one break up, it pulls back and it makes a second one here. I thought it might just been just one clean leg down, not including this little spike up. So it's just been first entry long here, which in that case doesn't give you a second entry long. However, if you wait a few more minutes, you do get a higher low right here. This higher low looks decent. It's bouncing off the EMA and it's a third touch confirmation of this ascending channel, but it didn't feel like there was enough room to scalp out to this top of this range, which I was playing at the time. So I was respecting that this is potentially a top of the range. I didn't want to try to push it to see if it break through. So I had to skip this trade as well. Then prices continue moving up. As you can see, it's clearly in a channel that's a bullish channel. And these are very small price action movements, but they are trending upwards. I draw this ascending channel, and at this point, I was pretty sure this is the top of the range, top of the channel. I see a setup here, the new high here. It's a first entry long here, breaks up, pulls back, and then it breaks up here. So this is a second entry long. When I saw this, I thought this is a potential trade right here. It's a good signal bar. It's bounced off the EMA. It does feel a little congested because these bars are side by side. And this does feel a little riskier because there's just enough room to scalp out before you hit the top resistance, which had been pushed back twice. So there is enough, like 6 ticks for one quick point scalp, but I didn't want to take it. I said I'd just wait for a higher low. Lo and behold, a few minutes later, you do get a higher low. But this, even though it's a good confirmation of the second entry long, it's kind of telling you that it's kind of hitting a resistance here. So again, if I didn't like this entry here, the second entry long, I definitely did not like the entry here at the higher low because there's clearly no room now. You'd have to bank on the power of this bullish move up, which in this case, as you'll see, does push up through. But at this time, in real time, it's hard to really trust and know that for sure. As you can see, the trade looks like it would have worked out, at least for a quick point. Hops around. If you didn't go for a quick point and you went for 2 points or more, you probably would have gotten stopped out on this candle. And this is actually the first entry that I took. I saw a new high, comes down. It's a first entry long, pulls back. This is setting up to look like it's a potential second entry long. I like that it closed above the EMA, and I enter the trade right here, one tick above. Now, I also knew that I wanted at least a quick 1 point scalp at minimum, and I knew the top of this trading range would provide me that 1 point scalp. So I took the entry one tick above, and fortunately I was able to scalp out for my 1 point here, and it looked like it pushed up a little bit further and then continue going. Had I had a runner or I was trading with runners, I would have definitely scalped out here, moved the runner to break even here, and you would have been able to ride the runner all the way up till probably about here. You would have gotten stopped out, which would have been a nice, roughly, I don't know, 6 point move at least. But I didn't. I just traded as one big group and just got the quick 1 point. And it was a first breakout of this ascending range, ascending channel. So almost looked like it touched the end, went back up, popped around. You do have a second entry long here, but it's too far from the EMA. It's too close to the top of the range, this little consolidation range. So it felt risky to try to take a bullish entry here. Prices continue moving up, comes up, tests the top of this channel. It looks like it's getting some trouble, rejects, comes back down. You got this very, very tight consolidation, very uniform move down. Comes up, it bounces again, it goes above the EMA. And right now the EMA is flattening. So I'm just thinking it might be in a range now. You can ignore this lighter channel, this lighter trading range at this moment. But I didn't draw it until much later. But I did draw this ascending channel coming up. It looks like it's breaking up. It chops around, and I did see this one yellow line coming down. I saw this as an overshoot of this green channel, and I'm thinking there'll be a symmetric overshoot of this down here, and probably prices would move back in. What I saw here was kind of interesting. This is actually a second entry short that's hidden and a failed second entry long because you have a new high here, clearly new high. First entry long pulls back, goes to the other side, breaks through, makes a second entry long, continues up, and then makes a failed second entry long right here. Technically, it hasn't failed yet, but if it goes one tick below, it's going to cause a failure. On top of that, I saw this as a new low here. It's a first entry short, and this is why it's a hidden second entry short. It's a first entry short. It breaks up above, then comes right back down. So all within the life of this candle is where the second entry short is formed. So it's a first entry short, pulls back up, comes right back down, second entry short. Now everything is going to be determined if it breaks one tick below here on the next candle. Then it confirms for sure both of these setups, the failed second entry long and the second entry short. And here you have it. I didn't have a trade ready just because I wasn't too sure what was going on. I saw this happening in real time and I just didn't trust the instinct at that point because it could push back up, continue going long, continue on this green channel, or it could be one leg down, push up, and then a second leg down. This one's confirming to me that yes, probably prices are coming back down. Unfortunately, when this closed, if I wanted to take an entry, I had to put it one tick below here, but I also felt that maybe I'll be too late to the trade. And as you can see, if I did put my entry here, I would have just barely been able to squeak in on this trade. But my concern was also I might run into a potential resistance down here because you can count this potentially as a new low here. Well, not a new low, but one test, two tests, and it could end up being a triple test. So I didn't want to run into that issue. Setup was nice, but just didn't have enough confidence in it yet. The prices continue moving down. Looks like it would have been a fantastic trade. Prices continue in this red channel that I drew. And I was just making the connection one touch, two touch at the top. The bottom I wasn't too sure of. So actually the bottom of this red channel was kind of floating. I had overshoot here twice. I didn't like that. So then I did drag it down here to try to encapsulate those two overshoots and just say this is the top of the range, top of the channel, excuse me, and bottom of the channel. This is where I actually take my second and final trade. It's a new low here. It's a first entry short, pulls back up. I liked while watching this because it didn't actually close. This candle took a little bit of time to close out. As I can see, is like 1 minute, and this took about 2 minutes to complete. So in real time, I saw this. I saw it break up, and I did have potentially this channel coming down. I liked that it broke up, and I was waiting to see if it would close above or below. Not only did it close below this descending channel, the top where the resistance is, it also closed below the EMA, which I liked. And it also closed very bearish. So I thought there was enough room for a quick scalp to at least crawl out maybe 1 to 2 points. So enter the trade here. It's hard to see the magenta triangle, and I was able to scalp out where this blue triangle was. I got a quick 2 points out of that. I didn't want to push it any further. Technically, you could probably push it for maybe a third point, but it'd be running into the potential bottom of this range, which had some kind of support here previously. So I left it, just made sure I got out in time. And as you can see, if you try to push it for way too much, it would have come out, and this candle likely would have stopped you. Prices continue moving up and out, chopping around. I'm not sure what's happening here, so I just kind of sat in my hands. Prices continue chopping. I see a failed second entry long right here. It's a new high. It's a first entry long, pulls back, second entry long. Now, technically, this second entry long is still a second entry long because if the next candle actually closes higher, then you actually have a second entry long and continues upwards. So I'm anticipating a failure on this second entry long. I like that this is potentially a channel coming down and it fits nicely at the bottom. So I didn't have a trade ready just because I wasn't sure. I just wanted to see what the next candle would do. And as you can see, it flashes down. And by the time this candle closes, it felt too late in the trade because the scalp was already made. To jump in now felt like it would have been a chase. So I had to just definitely leave it alone. The prices continue dropping downwards. It falls nicely within this beige channel. I saw another potential entry here. I'm going with trend. I saw first entry short, pulls back. The second entry short, EMA rejection. It did break out of this beige channel coming down, so I'm thinking it's a failed breakout. I knew there was, well, I looked at it and I felt there was enough room to scalp out, but I just didn't take this trade as well. It's a possibly good trade because it's a failed breakout of the channel and it's a good signal bar. And I just wasn't sure if there was enough room to get out before it hit this bottom. So I again let this trade just go by. Had this actually moved up on this green bar, actually stopped right at this right here, which it kind of did. And then this one didn't close so strongly down. It gave me a little more room to breathe. I think I would have taken this trade or felt more confident taking the trade. As you can see here, it's a little tricky. It looked like it would have trapped you, or it could have trapped me from new low, first entry short, second entry short. So let's say I took my trade right here. This candle would have filled me, immediately probably flash up, and this candle would have stopped me out. And then prices would have continued in the direction that I thought I was going to go. So this was a very subtle, very tricky thing that was happening here because it failed here. It made a failed second entry short, trapped a whole bunch of people that went short. And unless you kept your stop very high, you were going to get probably stopped out here, and then it would have continued moving down. So how would I have known to stay out of this trade if I was, well, I stayed out of this trade anyways, but how would I have known if I was going to take this trade? I think this is one of those high probability setups that just doesn't work out. And it would have, in most cases, worked out, but this is just a tricky setup. And then prices continue moving down, chops. It falls into this green trading range now. I saw a second entry long here and a failed second entry short. So it's a new high here, first entry long, pulls back, and I'm thinking second entry long. So when it makes this double top here, I'm thinking second entry long for sure. I also saw this is a new low, first entry short, second entry short. Now, both the second entry long and the failed second entry short are not confirmed yet until the next candle breaks above this big green candle. But it's indicating that you could probably think it's going to go bullish. What made me think and give me pause was this is counter trend. It's also running into the top of this descending channel now. So you could hit a resistance and come back down. So although this setup hasn't been confirmed yet, I was reluctant to try to go long here because it also felt like playing against the overall trend that wants to go down. Looks like it would have worked because I would have entered here, flashed up, and then closed right at the EMA. But I'm pretty happy that I didn't take this trade because it felt a little riskier. Here is a higher low here. I was considering, okay, there's a higher low here because first entry long, second entry long, higher low. It's a good signal bar, close above the EMA. And even though I didn't take the trade, I think this is probably a reasonably safe trade to have taken. But unfortunately, I don't think I was mentally aware or just ready to take this trade. Then prices continue moving up, pops sideways for a bit, falls into this trading range. That's kind of ascending trading range. I saw this new high here, first entry long, setting up potentially for second entry long. You get the second entry long here, but I didn't have a trade ready just because the signal bar wasn't very good. If it had closed a little bit more bullish and on top of the EMA, then I think I might have had an order ready to drop in. But since it closed a little bit neutral, by the time this candle forms to confirm the second entry long, it's too late. Look at the size and the strength of this candle. It's just too late. You had to let it go because the scalp or the trade was already made. To jump in afterwards, one tick above, you'd be chasing for sure. And to put one tick below the original signal bar, you're asking for a price action to do a lot, to come all the way back down to get you into the trade and then move completely back in the original direction. And that's a big ask for this size candle. Now, granted, this candle and other days would be considered pretty small, but in the context of today's price action, it is considered a pretty big candle. So I had to leave it alone. Prices continue moving up, breaks out of this channel, and I'm thinking I'm just going to create a symmetric move back down here. I just see a new high here, first entry long. Here it creates a second entry long, but this is a terrible signal bar, so you wouldn't have, or I would definitely would not have wanted to enter this trade. And then it kind of closes out to the end. Plus, this trade was too late in the day. There's only about 6 minutes left in the regular trading hours, so it's not something I wanted to risk and try to manage a trade or even have to deal with it in the after hours, or just did want to be carrying a potentially uh, iffy trade into the close. So that's how I saw the charts today. So hopefully that was helpful.